Firing Line with William F. Buckley, Jr. Tonight's guest, Otto Preminger. Here is tonight's chairman, C. Dickerman Williams.
Ladies and gentlemen, our topic for discussion tonight is production codes and censorship. Our guest is Mr. Otto Preminger, the motion picture producer. Our student guests are from Queens College. Mr. Buckley, will you proceed?
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Preminger is, of course, the famous movie producer, and I know he will not want me to waste any time in advising you that his latest picture, Hurry, Sundown, is now playing at your local theater in spite of the movie critics. Mr. Preminger has had vast theatrical experience. He was born in Vienna, the son of the Attorney General of the Austrian Empire. To please his father, he studied law. The record seems to show that he never went out of his way to please anyone again, except the movie-going public. He quickly abandoned the law and became a stage director. At 29, he left for the United States, where he has lived for 30 years now, producing such famous movies as Laura, The Moon is Blue, Angel Face, Carmen Jones, The Man with the Golden Arm, Anatomy of a Murder, Advise and Consent, and many others. Mr. Preminger loves to tease the censors. He was reportedly delighted that the motion picture production code was denied to his The Moon is Blue. He showed it anyway. Ditto, The Man with the Golden Arm, and now there is a fuss over Hurry, Sundown. Hurry and find out what it's all about is Mr. Preminger's position. Exactly what Mr. Preminger's views are on codes, censorship, and the like is not exactly clear, and the purpose of this discussion is to attempt to find out. Mr. Preminger, you have said that you aren't in favor of, quotes, immoral films. What do you mean by, quotes, immoral films?
First of all, let me thank you, Mr. Buckley. I have never been introduced better, and if I had any sense, I would shut up and say nothing now, because it was witty, nice, and if you speak about teasing, kind of teasing the public about me. I don't know when I said this thing about immoral films, and it is probably taken out of context. I don't know what.
It was issued by your office.
It is quite really, and my office is often out of context. But I would say, however, that an immoral film is a film that does not conform to the morality that we all in our community adopt. That is an immoral film. And an immoral film, and maybe it is a better expression to call it an obscene film. And I certainly am against obscenity in any way, just as much as I'm against censorship of any kind. If we want to come to the I don't tease the censors. Yeah. I'm against it.
In other words, you are against immoral films, but what steps would you take to discourage their production?
It is not necessary to discourage the production of an immoral or obscene film. If an obscene film is shown in any theater, the police and the district attorney would immediately confiscate it and indict the producer, the theater owner, and everybody connected.
But that's censorship, isn't it?
No, that's not censorship. That's the law against obscenity. They would do the same thing if we did it on Fifth Avenue, the same act of obscenity, or if we did it here, or if you did it on the front page of the New York Times, or even of the National Review. You know, you cannot commit obscenity in any way.
Well, but then you are in favor of certain kinds of censorship, aren't you?
No, censorship is a great difference. Censorship is if the government, a state, a city, wants to see the film, or the book, or the newspaper, or the magazine, before it is shown to the people, and wants to tell you or me whether we can publish this magazine or whether I can show this film before it is shown. That is censorship.
Don't the lawyers call that prior censorship?
But they should call it prior censorship.
No, I think
lawyer. Is there a difference
in my capacity as counsel, I will rule that Mr. Preminger's definition is correct. It's censorship when the publication is prevented in advance.
So prior censorship
Punishment
is a
afterwards
redundancy?
is not regarded as censorship.
Well, is prior censorship a
in the
redundancy?
law. I beg pardon?
Is the term prior censorship a redundancy?
I'm not familiar with it.
You're not familiar with what?
The term prior censorship. Censorship means to me stopping the publication.
Well, when you say, quotes, I have had censorship trouble, what were you alluding to?
I was alluding to illegal censors who tried to stop me from doing what I felt to do. For instance, there is a self-censorship body. The Motion Picture Producers Association has a censor, a so-called self-censor. I am not a member of the Motion Picture Producers Association. Only my distributors are members. Now, when, for instance, The Moon is Blue was finished, my distributor, United Artists, showed the picture to the censor. The censor said, no, I cannot permit this picture because there are two words which I would like you to cut. The words were virgin and pregnant, that we can now freely use on television even and everywhere. I said, I will not cut these two words. Now, mind you, that I don't believe that this film or any film is so sacred that it would be ruined if a line or even a whole scene were cut. You know, there's no. I only feel that in my area, I'm supposed, or I am obligated to defend that freedom of expression that is guaranteed to us by the law, by the same law that would put me in prison if I committed an act of obscenity. The same law says that I have the right to my freedom of expression. I am the only judge what I can do, what I cannot do. And I feel that this is very important because without this freedom of expression, we couldn't sit here and talk. And this freedom of, if the same freedom of expression were guaranteed to the people in Russia or in Nazi Germany, the government of Russia and Nazi Germany or of China couldn't exist. This is the greatest, in my opinion, the greatest safeguard of our way of life, of democracy.
You see, the reason you confuse me, Mr. Preminger, is because here in this statement you use the word censorship in a non-legal sense. A moment ago you were rather finicky to use it in the exact
Mr.
legal
Buckley,
sense.
wouldn't it be
there
nicer,
wasn't, in fact, any censorship. There was pressure.
Wouldn't it be
right?
nicer to throw these things that my office sent you away and to talk, you know, I'm here. Why,
yes,
I mean,
but,
why not take what I say instead of trying to
right.
pin me down to some publicity,
let's
things
assume.
which my office probably in the best intentions, you know, didn't understand, you know.
Well, let's assume that you have not successfully communicated your position to your office, but are resolved to do so here tonight.
I communicated, obviously, my position very successfully to our chairman.
You know, on a matter of legal definition,
Yes.
but then you went on to use a term which, as I understand it, can only be used metaphorically when referring to a non-government agency. The Motion Picture Production Code didn't have standing behind it the force of law.
Yeah, but
and therefore, they couldn't tell you what to do, and therefore they weren't in a position to, quote, censor you. They were in a position to pressure you.
It's not that simple, because...
Well, I think Mr. Preminger's point is that it was comparable to a censor in the sense that it acted before release, before publication,
Right.
before showing.
Right.
That's the analogy he draws,
Yes.
if I understand it.
All right, so he was using the word metaphorically.
And it is generally used like this.
So
now, there is no government censorship in the United States.
In other words, all you have done so far is to have defended the position you took in releasing The Moon is Blue, together with a certain amount of background music about Nazi Germany and the Soviet Union. Now, I agree.
I don't get you.
Well, I'll try to
I
make
was
myself
just
clearer.
about to use another dirty word and to say that that you might consider dirty, and to say that the Supreme Court has often and often reaffirmed that there is no censorship in the United States, neither for books, nor for magazines, for newspapers, or for motion pictures.
Well, I think.
Well, I think that Mr. Preminger went a little beyond the Supreme Court in part of that last statement. They have upheld by a majority of 5-4 local censorship, but there has to be an immediate
Not for
judicial
movies.
review on condition
yes.
that there's an immediate
That is
judicial
different,
review.
right. The censor can only, that is the same thing, the censor can only censor it if he does not wait for the party to go to the judge, but immediately goes to the judge. Well, that is the same thing.
Gentlemen, I don't propose to censor this most interesting discussion, but because we have a shortage of time, I've got to say that we must end it. Thank you, Mr. Preminger. Thank you, Mr. Buckley.